What personality type best fits Yoongi has been debated for a hot minute, I think.
I think the two most prominent types that he's usually typed as is the INTP and the INTJ.
And honestly, confusion between these two personalities is quite normal because even though their cognitive functions are complete opposites, they share a lot of similarities when it comes to their personalities. Like they both are very private and they love knowledge for knowledge's sake and hate small talk and are clueless about other people's feelings and all that. And they're very much future focused. So though they often arrive at the same conclusions, how they get there is totally different, and what they do with that information is also completely different. Yoongi has actually said many times that he doesn't think he's an INTP, though that's the result he often gets when he takes the 16 personalities test. And the reason he doesn't think he's an INTP is because Jin also gets typed as an INTP.
그 MBTI 나 잘 안 믿는데 MBTI도 시민도 똑같아.
아 그래요?
심의를 하면은
뭔데요?
INTP. INTP요.
아 형 TP예요?
So I started watching a lot of videos and reading a lot of interviews, and no INTP functions were coming up at all. And if they did, I would have had to strip his quotes from all context, which is, wrong and not the point. So I began by looking for extroverted intuition, which is pretty easy to spot. If you're having a conversation with someone and they start going off the rails, or they start the story but they never finish it, and they don't have an opinion, they have thousands of opinions on the same topic somehow. They always sort of leave like a door open, like they never fully commit to a statement. For example, I asked my INTP friend about her opinion on Suga being either an INTP or an INTJ, and she said, "Not giving information sounds more like a me thing than a you thing, but again, he answers in facts, which is a you thing." Thank you, buddy. That cleared absolutely no doubt at all. Oh, also I am an INTJ. That's what she meant by me thing.
Since your album is named Love Yourself, what is one thing each of you love about yourself?
I like puppy.
Me? I want to be a dad.
What I found instead was a lot, and I truly mean a lot, of extroverted thinking.
이렇게 생각하시고
한 덩어리 한 덩어리 한 덩어리씩 이렇게 하니까
진짜 약간 건축하듯이 이렇게 가는
비트 만들고 또 멜로디 쓰고
쓰고 가사
작사하고.
있으면 있고.
People who use extroverted thinking are very goal-oriented. They are concerned with what works best, what's the most efficient way of doing things. They always have a plan.
He takes 15 minutes for the shower.
50분 일찍 일어나야지 그러면.
They always need structure in the things they do, and they quickly make these processes into routines because it's what works best. In fact, when asked months later about his song-making process with Rolling Stone, he reiterated Generally, when I work on a song, I create the beat first and then the melody and the rap, then finally the lyrics.
순서가 딱 정해져 있어.
저는 전혀 그렇지 않고 여기 튀고 저기 튀고.
That is what extroverted intuition sound like. So even if RM sat down with the intention to write a verse, let's say, his mind is going, well, what about this melody? And what about this going on in the bridge? And what about this other thing? Your brain is constantly throwing ideas at you. So even if you had a routine, or even if you know what works best, your brain is always like, let's try it this way now. Oh my god, that was so aggressive.
진짜 할 게 너무 없으니까 이제 곡을 쓰는 건데. 진짜
전 그렇진 않거든요.
그거를 우리 숲 찍으면서 내가 썼던 기억이 있는데 인더스트리.
아 그때 그 형 거기에서 트레일러에서
그때 작업했던.
아 그때 작업을 했어요?
내가 거기서 한 3곡 써갔어. 3곡.
진짜 레전드다. 난 그때 뭐 했냐?
아니 뭐다 그림 그리고 다.
쌀데기 없이 그 탁구 나오고 자,
뭐 하려고 한 게 아니야. 그 진짜 할 게 없으니까 한
아니
거지.
나는 하려고 해도 안 되는데 아무튼 참 특이해요.
If you don't know, even though I'm sure you do, In the Soup is a show in which BTS take a break for a couple of days. They play games, they do karaoke, they paint, or go fishing for hours if you're Jin. It's basically what they would do if they had actual time to do things. And Suga made music. Treating your hobby as a job or treating your job as a hobby, that's literally extroverted thinkers' whole brand. Another thing I wanted to talk about Suga is his lack of tact or care for other people's feelings. If he believes something to be a fact, he will not sugarcoat it.
이거 제대로 못하는데?
고개 넣었는데
네 마음대로 하는데 가사?
모두 다 그 발이 좀 든든해. 나는 좀 이상한 거는.
I think Yoongi has come a long way when it comes to his emotional intelligence, but in all the clips, you can clearly see that he's not comfortable at all talking about his feelings or even showing any kind of affection. Not only is he honest to the point where he unintentionally hurts other people's feelings, he's also very stubborn about it.
언제가 올 거야?
아 무슨 소리 뭐라 그래요?
울 수도 있지. 물어본 거야? 궁금해서.
언제까지 올
뭐
거야?
울지 말라 그랬냐 내가?
Most of these characteristics point to Suga using something called introverted feeling.
제가 표현을 되게 못해요. 표현을 굉장히 못해가지고 많은 분들이 되게 오해하시는데 항상 너무 감사드리고 너무너무 고맙고 이런 거를 참 표현 못해서 되게 아쉽긴 해요. 근데 정말 너무너무 사랑하고 너무너무 감사드려요.
You can find introverted feeling in his answers when he is asked about someone else, but he answers about himself. For example, Rolling Stone magazine asked him about foreign fans missing the wordplay in his songs, and he said, "When I was growing up, of course, I listened to American hip-hop and pop, and my English is not very good. So I read the lyrics and the translations of the lyrics. I really couldn't understand them because of the intricacies of the language. And I think that's an unavoidable part of the language barrier. I feel for them because I am also them." Another aspect of Suga's personality that also ties into introverted feeling is his need for things to be fair. I would say that his morals are very idealistic. For example, in his interview with WeVerse magazine, he talked about the promotional period after a comeback, and he said, "If the fatigue builds up as you continuously do those promotional activities, it's hard to do them the way you did when you first debuted. In that case, I think the label ought to actively accommodate the artist's view about what they can and cannot do. An attitude that's just like, oh, we made you kids, and as long as you just do what we tell you to, it'll all work out, so just do it. I think that really doesn't make any sense." This need for justice, when combined with his extroverted thinking, helps the INTJ see how system works and where are they failing and how they can be improved. This usually causes the INTJ to end up campaigning for reform, especially in the places they work. Suga has also said regarding artists, "Since our job doesn't fit the common conception of work, there are ambiguous boundaries when it comes to issues of legal protection as well. We need a lot of improvements to be made to the industry and its system." Now, let's quickly address another aspect of Suga's personality.
좀 무서워했었거든요. 사람들이 많은 걸 있어서. 솔직히 말하면 연습생 때부터 이제 그런 게 있었던 것 같아요. 그냥 일상적인 평범한 뭔가를 할 때 사람들이 많은 거는 아직도 무서운 것 같아요.
그때 기억해 내 키보다 훨씬 더 컸던 갈색 피아노 그게 나를
The inferior function in the functional stack of every MBTI type is usually a double-edged sword. It has great benefits if you know how to use it, or it can also ruin your life.
Nice.
I think it's pretty obvious that Suga uses extroverted sensing as his inferior function. Extroverted sensing has to do with the 5 senses, which, again, if you know how to use it, it means you probably lean towards more artistic activities that require you to be present or that have a lot of sensory details, like painting or writing, or in Suga's case, making music. But if you use it too much, your physical sense may be easily overwhelmed. This probably means that you may struggle with chaotic environments, which usually causes you to mentally check out of situations.
예쁜 멋있는 뮤직비디오를 찍어주신 우리 루페스 감독님, 현우 감독님, 그리고 네?
Extroverted sensing is the INTJ's information gathering function, which means that they tend to sense the world around them and then they make sense of it intuitively. So if you have to collect what you're hearing, what you're seeing, what you're touching, and so on, all at once, it easily takes a toll on you. That's why the INTJ needs a lot of time alone to decompress from all of that. Now, if you've been keeping count, I've already talked about thinking, feeling, and sensing, which means there's only intuition left. I wanted to get all of those functions out of the way before I dive into intuition, because there's a lot to talk about. First of all, we need to address the I in INTJ. The I stands for introversion, and it doesn't have anything to do with people's energy level or social abilities or hobbies even. Like, why are introverts depicted in media as always reading? Extroverts can read. This is a fact. The I just means that this personality type's main function is an introverted one. Our two favorite functions will always be an introverted one and an extroverted one, our main and auxiliary function. But the introverted function in one of these two positions will most likely be hidden from the outside world. So that means that what you will usually see from introverts, it's their extroverted auxiliary functions, and what you see from extroverts, it's their main extrovert function. As if it weren't hard enough, introverted intuition is one of those functions that is completely internal. Introverted intuitives like to spot patterns and connect the dots and predict events in order to increase their chances of success. I've seen a lot of people online counting those what Yoongi wants, Yoongi gets videos as introverted intuition proof, but sadly, this function does not turn you into a fortune teller. Just because Yoongi achieves his goals does not mean he can see the future. You've probably seen the INTJ depicted as an old man playing chess, and that, I think, it's a more accurate depiction of introverted intuition. It's being able to see that what you're doing right now can affect your future. Just like making a wrong move playing chess, or being able to spot your weak points in your strategy and trying to predict where the other one will attack. And when I say that it is a completely internal process, I mean that if you want and expect things to go a certain way, you wouldn't reveal your cards, or, keeping it with the chess metaphor, you wouldn't go and tell your opponent, I think you're gonna attack my knight. Because what if they hadn't realized they could do that? Instead of saying out loud what they think it will happen, you will probably hear a lot of, I knew you would say that. I knew you would do that. Still, there are clues and traces of introverted intuition in speech. I am a cognitive linguist, by the way, so I've been preparing for this. Remember when I said that extroverted intuitives wouldn't usually commit to a statement because they see so many options for the same thing? Well, their counterparts, introverted intuitives, see things very black and white. Things are either one way or the other. I love this GQ magazine interview where the interviewer asked, what are the words that you express through audio waveforms which you screen printed onto your painting morning? And he explains that only the person that gets the painting will know. So then the interviewed says, those words must hold a special meaning for you. And he says, they do if you think they're special, but they don't if you don't think they're special. Besides how funny this is to me, here we can also see another side of introverted intuition, which is the ability to be objective.
Can BTS is spicy food.
Hell yeah!
Yeah,
you know 핵불닭볶음면.
나 요즘에는 못 먹겠어.
나도 힘들어.
아니 근데
좋아는 하는데
이게 한국인이 아닌 이제 다른 나라의 기준으로는
우리 잘 먹지 다.
우리가 진짜 너무 잘 먹는 거예요.
아, 그렇지. 그거 맞지.
This objectivity comes from being able to see the bigger picture of things. Again, in that GQ interview, he's asked, how do you manage to keep so balanced and calm? And he says, it's possible if you take a step back and observe the situation from a bit of a distance. People are bound to become emotional and go to extreme at times, but you can gain a sense of clarity if you just hold on and take a step back. When things get heated, I stop everything so that I can think. Okay, so that's everything I had to say about Yoongi's personality. To me, there is no doubt that he's an INTJ. There's a lot more characteristics that make up the INTJ, but I just focus on the ones that I could see in Yoongi. Overall, I'm really glad that we have Yoongi representing us, because if you've seen other INTJs, it's rough out there. I've always personally felt that Suga was an INTP, not for anything in particular, just like the vibe. Like, he just seemed a bit neurotic at times, you know? But when I started paying attention to him talk, no INTP functions came up at all. So that left me pretty confused. Why did I get this INTP vibe? And then one day, it sort of hit me. Like, I don't think my brain just throws things at me, right? Now, I'm sorry to all INTPs out there. This is not me trying to stereotype you at all, but I remember that Suga has ADHD.
이런 거 한다고. 쉿, 조용히 하세요. 뒤에서 좋다. 나 약간 ADHD 있어.
좀 조용히 좀 하세요. 좀 아저씨 가만히 못 있나? 5명이 집중하고 있는데 좀 조용히 하세요.
So I told my INTP friend about this theory that he's actually an INTJ. His brain just functions differently because he has ADHD. And she said, that's a possibility. I should honestly get a Nobel Peace Prize for all the murders I don't commit.